Uh, Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Um, I don't know where Lynn is. She's probably busy out someplace, and I know it's my turn to come on, so I'll just grab the mic and start my show. I was hoping Veronica would stick around while I was on the mic because so good to see her. I know the whole story about her being able to get in the room now, uh, and as far as being on Pal Talk because we were having so many problems with her computer, and she wasn't able to get on, and Lynn had to call her all the time. So she had someone show up at her house and mention it to this person, and this person knew of this latest and greatest software that just came out and fixed her all up, and so now she is all dialed in on Pal Talk. So pretty awesome, pretty great. Um, I wanted to mention one thing that is kind of happening, and it's been useful in my life right now before I start my show. And I was in a meeting, and I was um, really not a meeting that was concerning me, and so I had a chance to do some meditating and everything, and I wrote this down, and I just thought I would share it to open up the show. And what I realized in that meeting is this, and this is what I wrote down. We are all willing to drop the ego if given the chance. My function is to provide the space so my brother can take that step forward, which means I have to make the first move as the unconditioned. Trust the real identity of your brothers and sisters. So what I like about this whole revelation is when I was in this meeting and everyone was pointing fingers and throwing this and that around of what the problem of the office and everything we were having. I had tried to raise my consciousness and see what was really the solution for this, and I realized that everybody that was mad in that meeting, upset or whatever, were actually, if they were given the chance, they would be more than willing to drop the defense, drop the criticism, and drop that and make that meeting one of genuine communication. How can we help each other and really see that person that's next to you, beside you, or anybody in that meeting as someone that really genuinely and really um, wants to help, um, not just help you, but just help the whole process of community, what we have in our shared interest in that company. Um, so I started to think, well, how could that happen? And then I realized that I was the one, or all of us, each individually, when we're in that ego space where egos are just talking to each other and really not saying anything, and we're just in that ego loop of relative importance. um, the thing that I need to do is to drop all of that and create that space of, in my safety, my defenselessness lies, or is my defenselessness my safety lies, and be open to take whatever the person's ego defenses starts defending itself with. Just be there with it. Let the ego feel me out, so to speak, figure out where I'm coming from, and let me be there until the ego is enough at ease and lets that presence of the Christ that is in that other person reveal itself and communicate, and that way we can both communicate with each other. And so that's me making the first move in a space that is unconditioned by ego beliefs and judgments. But in order to do that, I have to trust that that Christhood in my brother. I have to trust that love and that willingness that that person really has to break out of the ego defenses and to reveal the love and the joy, happiness, and the compassion that that person is. It really is a matter of that in order for me to do that, I really have to trust that in time, it might not happen that time, but I have to trust that identity has the love of God, the love of Christ, and is super, super willing to be that way. And I have to be that catalyst and have to be that reflection or of Christ's vision that is in him, so he can see himself as me. So, anyways, let me start on my show, and this is we are on the part one, the story, and we are on the book of the throne, which is the first book of the series of 7 of Cosmic History Chronicles, and I believe this is my 7th show doing this. And I don't know if anybody's interested or not, but this show will go on now on Tuesdays at I believe it is 10:30 Eastern and 7:30 Pacific Standard Time on Awakening Together Radio. So that is my new schedule for the new Awakening Together schedule, and so I thought I'd throw that out there. So, anyways, let me start my my show here with the beginning of this chapter here, which is called Cosmos Perceivable through Supramental Effort. And I like the word effort. The effort says to me mind training. Like it's not going to just come and all of a sudden hit you on the head. Although it can. I'm not ruling out that possibility. But for me, and I think for most of us, this is the way that that if we were going to break out of the ego thought system, it's going to have to be with effort through mind training. Okay, cosmos is the entire order of reality as a coherent, distinguishable pole. This fact cannot be grasped by your senses. The only way you can grasp it is through some type of inner meditation or visualization. To appreciate what cosmos is, you have to make a supramental effort. When you look at the stars, you see they are really only a minute portion of the universe. You have to go beyond thinking that you can see it. The cosmos constitutes all of the inner worlds as well as many dimensions which you can hardly fathom. You must approach the cosmos through the exercise of your imaginal will. Then you can begin to see the cosmos, you can see what cosmos actually is. So this is the first paragraph. And cosmos is everything in existence. And if we ask ourselves, well, what is everything? Does this include this? Does this include that? It includes everything. So it's outside the box, inside the box, outside the outside of the box. I mean, it is everything. But it is the entire order of reality as a coherent, distinguishable whole. So everything that exists is coherent and distinguishable. This fact cannot be grasped by your senses, of course. Of course, we're third-dimensional beings. There is so many things that can't be grasped by our physical senses or even our imagined senses. If we look at even the Course of Miracles, where the Holy Spirit is a very big part of that teaching, but if you ask science to define it, to prove that it exists, that's not going to happen. But all of us Course in Miracles students who have gone through some degree of mind training and have been released to a certain extent from the ego thought system can verify that Holy Spirit is real and can function and does function as a very, very real reality in our lives. Okay, so the next sentence, the only way you can grab it is through some type of inner meditation or visualization. So there we go with the mind training. And I put meditation up there with mind training because to me meditation is the whole discipline of silencing the ego. To me it is not taking the ego into that space of that spiritual realm that meditation takes me. So of course when I first started meditating, I was taking the ego in there with me, asking, okay, what am I supposed to feel? How long is it going to take? What is this? What degree am I in right now? Am I in this state or that state? And when is it going to start affecting my life? And so when I'm asking all of these questions, when I'm trying to meditate, I'm taking the ego in there with expectations. And because the ego, what it wants to do, whatever it is in there, it is always out to get something, and it's always trying to use it for its own purpose of survival. And so let's see. Okay, so let's see. The next sentence: to appreciate what cosmos is, you have to make a supramental effort. And I would just say that is the same thing as mind training. And it is a supramental mental effort. I mean, I've been doing this for years and years and years to keep the ego out of my head, and it's still there, you know. And the degrees of discipline have always have to increase and increase and increase in order to see any results. So it is a supramental effort. Okay, next sentence. When you look at the stars, you see they are really only a minute portion of the universe. I don't think anyone thinks they see the whole universe. It says you have to go beyond thinking that you can see it. So what it's saying is don't trust your senses, um, that your senses can grasp the wholeness of the cosmos. The cosmos constitutes all of the inner worlds, as well as many dimensions which you can hardly fathom. It kind of speaks for itself. You must approach the cosmos through the exercise of your imaginal will. Then you begin to see what cosmos actually is. So, when he's talking about exercising the imaginal will, and I don't know why imaginal does not sound right. I would pronounce it like imagined will, or your imagination will, or something like that. But imaginal, I gotta be pronouncing it right. That's the only way to pronounce this. But to me, this brings to mind is a book called Beyond Words by or Journey Beyond Words by Brent Haskell, and which is a great read, great book to study. I love it, and that whole book, I see that as a whole book of imagination. I mean, the book really guides you to imagine God, if you will, to imagine the aspects, the attributes, the sense of everything that is godlike, that is holy, that's non-ego. And this is what I believe it's saying, that it's saying right here. We can't. Well, you know, there. I'm looking at this, and I think you have to really define what he's talking about here, because the ego has a very active imagination. I mean, the imagination of the ego, for me, it seems very real at the time, but it's like 99% of whatever I imagine never comes true anyways, but I live through it in my mind. So I don't believe he's talking about that, but I think if we can think about, if we're trying to understand what imagination really is, I'm even thinking for myself is if I examine the imagination of the ego, I really, in speaking for myself, that's probably more developed and wild and crazy than 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 the imagination he's probably talking about right here. Now my ego was thinking about, I mean, crazy stuff. I mean, insane stuff. Oh my gosh. Okay. Next paragraph. Since it can only be grasped as constituent element, a constituent element of the imaginal realm, the apprehension of cosmos is entirely mental in nature. It is of the mind. And ultimately, cosmos is nothing but the mental image of God. It is just pure manomaya thought form or mind-made illusion. The Quran says that God can will anything to be. This means if God so desired, he could will the whole cosmos out of existence, leaving us disembodied, floating in the great void, wondering what happened to our contents. And just for the record, that whole sentence means nothing to me. Is just, I guess he's trying just to explain something, but there is no God that can desire or want anything, in my humble opinion. This is just to illustrate the highly mental field which we are operating. So that's the example that he likes to use. I could have thought of something a little bit more practical in my mind, but I'm not a great writer and thinker and everything like this cat is. But anyway, so this paragraph, what stands out for me, which everything's entirely in nature, and it is of the mind. To me, what all of that is intelligence and order and and purpose. Um, it is nothing physical. How could it be? Essence of everything. Actually, there really isn't even even anything physical. All it is just that spirit and intelligence and orders appears as physical, but it really isn't. Then they say something like 99.99% of everything is air or energy or something, and there's like they said some crazy thing. If all the supposedly matter in the whole universe were all put into one spot, it would be like so tiny you couldn't even see or something. I don't know, something crazy like that. Okay, I like this next sentence. And ultimately, cosmos is nothing but the mental image of God. I like to think of it being the imagination of God, that everything that that exists is the imagination of God. And then his next sentence, that is exactly what it says. It is just a pure manomaya thought form or mind-made illusion. And the illusion meaning that if this is all God's imagination, then why, if there was such a movement in God, whatever that is, why couldn't that God imagine something different and this whole, in another universe or something? Maybe he's got a couple universes, who knows? And imagine a whole other structure of order and intelligence than what is here right now. So this whole sentence, that all of this is just a mind-made illusion, really, for me anyways, defines the I don't want to say relativity of the whole thing, but there is a certain purpose to the illusion that God has imagined here in this time space. I mean, and then it actually brings up the question. Okay, so he imagined this. everything that has been, ever been, or supposedly, right? Now, I mean, it gets really wild in thinking that, okay, well, how many times does this happen? And how many dimensions does this happen? How many eternities are there? And God, how many other illusions is it possible for God to make, or maybe can't? You know. So anyway, that's what this book um, takes us. It is trying to break the our mental constraints, our mental barriers of our beliefs to another level where it's just not the earthly purpose of survival and illusion. I mean evolution. Um, this is concerned with a lot more. And actually, to practically speak, maybe a little bit too much in terms of for the average person. And I mean, everyone is right now working, or in an evolutionary sense, is working on their own ego as far as um, um, transcending the ego thought system. That right there in itself is all anybody really needs. That's enough for anybody to really work on in a lifetime, and it is enough for me. It is enough for me. That is a full time work. But this makes for me it makes this work easier for me, getting the whole picture and the whole purpose of creation and evolution than just working on little old me. It helps me not to take things so personally by looking at the big picture. So that's what I'd like about studying this. Okay, so anyways, the rest of the paragraph, yeah, I already told you what I think about God desiring stuff. Okay, next paragraph. The universe is constructed through your mind. You have to come to the conclusion that mind and consciousness are the basic constructive elements of what we call cosmos. Mind is what allows the possibility of perception of something outside of itself or in itself. Consciousness is a condition or quality of mind which is specified by particular qualities and conditions of being or thought. When we say that at its foundation the cosmos is constructed as mind and consciousness, this means that first there must be the manifestation of mind, which exists everywhere and is a function of the incomprehensible totality of the mind of God. Without this knowledge, the whole of what we call the universe or the cosmic duality bubbles itself into being out of the mythic cauldron. Okay, so let's break this paragraph down. The universe is constructed through mind. I don't think that needs to be broken down. I think everyone understands that. At least I hope. You have to come to the conclusion that mind and consciousness are the basic constructive elements of what we call cosmos. I'll go one more sentence. Mind is what allows the possibility of perception of something outside of itself or in itself. To me, this is awareness. Consciousness are basic constructive elements of what we call consciousness. Mind and consciousness, to me, is awareness. Um, Mind is what allows the possibility of perception. To me, that is awareness. Awareness is what perceives of something outside of itself or in itself. To me, nothing takes place without awareness. Um, Nothing can take place outside of awareness. There's no order without awareness because um, awareness has to be aware of order in in order for order to exist. Um, if you follow what I'm saying, and I think this is basically what we are talking about here. Let's see. Consciousness is a condition or quality of mind which is specified by particular qualities and conditions of being or thought. So consciousness is our qualities, which mean to me means our perceptions and conditions. You know, we're bodies, or we live in bodies, I should say. Um, we live in a country, a certain country. We live in a certain city. We have a certain race. We speak a certain language. We have certain people around us. We watch our certain television programs. We listen to our favorite internet program, which is Awakening Together. So all of this is what consciousness is. And this consciousness is not related to um, just an individual. It is also collective. Like, you know, there's a collective consciousness of that we live in right now, which we call race consciousness. Okay. When we say that it is at its foundation of the cosmos is constructed as mind and consciousness, this means that first there must be the manifestation of mind awareness, which exists everywhere, which is awareness, and is a function of the incomprehensible totality of the mind of God. Awareness, being the imagination of God, has to, awareness. I mean, how can anything be created um, without awareness creating it? You know, it's just like in the course. You know, we're talking about there are things that are made and things that are created. You know, and the things of God are the only thing that's real and the only thing that can be created. Love, peace, joy, happiness. Um, that's what we're talking about. As far as creation is concerned. Within this knowledge, the whole of what we call the universe or cosmic duality bubbles itself into being out of the mythic cauldron. So, when it says duality bubbles itself into being, to me, this reminds me of the Course in Miracles, where we have the tiny mat idea of duality, that we can be separate, and all of that is just a perception that does not exist really. It is just a perception that happens in and occurs in the realm of awareness. Even though it's not real, even though the ego is not real, it still happens as a modulation of the totality of awareness. Okay, so we got past that part. So the next part is called Cosmic History to Basic Premises. Cosmic history has two basic beginning premises. The sense organs are intrinsically perfect. Mind training is essential to discover this. Okay, he uses the word mind training. I've heard that before someplace. But, if you notice his the first premise, the sense organs are intrinsically perfect. So if there's no such thing as a body, how can this be true? So we will explore what he means about this. At the microscopic level, the sense organs are already perfect. Therefore, the information processed through the sense organs is also perfect. The premise is that the information is as good as the sense organs. However, being that what we are at the closing of the cycle, there is such an intuition. What is that word? Inundation, I guess means inundation. I know I'm not pronouncing it right for some reason. But I know what it means, that it's a very concentrated amount of sensory information, as well as mental conceptual information, that it is difficult to understand what a pure sensory experience might be. Information overload creates a type of sensory indiscrimination. And I think I can look at my life and understand this very well. And a good example would be just the ego thought system. All of the imagined projections, attacks, judgments, all of that is just inundated. There you go. Inundation is inundated with so much paranoia, of so much false beliefs, right from the get-go, that we really cannot really know, not even what our bodies are trying to tell us. And what this brings to mind is like illnesses, headaches, whatever kind of unease or disorder, or mental disorder, or physical disorders that we bring upon by this ego thought system of all of this information, paranoid information about, we're being attacked and so on and so forth. So we don't know what our bodies are trying to tell us. We can't listen to our senses that are trying to communicate, that we are unhappy, or we are under stress, or we are sad. I used to walk around like a zombie. I couldn't feel anything at all. I couldn't tell anybody that I loved them. I couldn't, just open up and even say how I feel. When I started doing um, my ministerial classes from Pathways of Light, some of the questions were, well, how do you feel about this? How does it make you feel about this? And I would answer the questions like, well, it would feel like this and that, or it could feel like that. Very separate from something that says, I feel, betrayed, or I feel humiliated, or I feel um, like dying, or whatever. I couldn't. I was so out of touch with this wall or this image that I had to protect. I couldn't. I did not feel safe in saying or telling anyone how I really felt. I was so out of touch with my body, with my senses. Okay, so that's just an example. Next paragraph. When we say the sense organs are perfect, what we are saying is that intrinsically the human neurobiological equipment is already perfect. But in order to experience the perfection, you must remove yourself from the distorted feedback loops that constitute the present social mental reality. And this is pretty much just saying what I just finished saying. And when we're talking about the neurobiological equipment, we're talking about the intelligence and order, that essence that makes up this thing that we call a body, that we use to as our communication devices, so we can communicate and experience and share this evolutionary part of moving back into spirit from form. Okay, next paragraph. These reinforcing feedback loops make you think. This is civilization, or that is society, which create thoughts like, I like movies, or what's the bestseller. None of this is helpful for evolution. These are all just diversionary perspectives that are meant to keep your mind quarantined in a narrow wavelength band. Okay, let me take a sip here. All right. Okay, so what he's saying is personal, society, preferences, um, favorite TV programs, favorite sports, football, basketball. I used to watch that stuff all the time. I used to live for Saturdays in college football. Not saying that's bad. I'll take in the game once in a while, but now I'm not like I used to be. That was a huge diversion for me personally. I mean, on TV in general, I mean, I still have TV, but I don't watch it very much at all. Just when something important that I think that I want to see. I'm mostly like on YouTube most of the time, just um, stuff that interests me and serves the purpose of evolution for me. And by evolution, I'm talking about evolving from the ego thought system back to spirit is what I'm talking about, evolution, and that is what this book is how it defines evolution, is a spiritual evolution. Okay. These are all just diversionary perspectives that are meant to keep the mind quarantined in a narrow wavelength band. Cosmic history says none of this. You may need to spend a few weeks in a meditation retreat, or go out to the country, or go look at the ocean for a while just to clear your mind out. Okay. Um, let me interject something here, and I can very much relate to this. Last year, I went to Costa Rica and spent 2 weeks over at the Choose Again facility that Diedrich Walczyk has. 2 weeks. I walk in, first thing they do, where's your computer? Where's your phone? And any other kind of electronics you have, they put it all in the office and lock it up, and then that's it. The only thing that you have is a camera. And so there's 2 weeks of no electronics, just all cut out from the normal, or what actually it's abnormal way that I had been living. And it took probably a week for me just to get used to not having all of that there, because there's still, the mind is still moving in that automatic pilot mode. But then the second week, that's when I really did some really qualitative growth, because I didn't have that stuff lingering in my mind as much. I can't say it's all gone or whatever, but still, it was lingering a lot less, and I was able to pay attention to what was going on, pay attention to my feelings, pay attention to my mind in the way that it was working for me, and just paying attention to Holy Spirit, or how just the whole movement. I don't, anyway, so this is the point that he's making, and it says this is hard for most people to do because their minds are so conditioned to be busy that they don't know what to do without the stimulus of artificial situations. And there's another thing I can relate to. I always had to have music on. I always had to have something going, and it was hard for me just to sit still and thinking that there's something that I have to do. I got to be doing something. There's something that I should be doing that really needs to get done. I can't just sit here and do nothing. That really brought me a lot of guilt feelings of doing that, because I felt like I should be doing something constructive, so to speak, all of the time. And so TV was a good, like I was saying, TV and just all different things were good distractions. So I didn't have to pay attention to what was going on inside. And in my age, there's a lot of us. I am 62. A lot of friends are retiring, and that is a big problem for some of these cats. It's like, oh, they worked at one place all their lives, and now they don't know what to do with themselves. For them, time was money. And so now they've got the money, and they don't know what life is, or what am I going to do with my life. And it's a problem. You guys are having heart attacks, or drinking. There's only so much golf they can play. And actually, I had a good friend over this weekend, and we were kind of like kicking that topic around. And he goes, well, what do you see you doing? How long do you see yourself working for? And I told him that I'm taking my life just like, one day at a time. What I'm doing is my purpose now um, is my spiritual practice, and that's something that I'm going to be doing no matter where I am, no matter where I'm living and how I'm living. I could be in a shack someplace, and still I'd be doing the same thing, you know, because what I am doing with my life right now is taking charge of my experience of life. It's not trying to be in a place where um, I want to be or doing what I want to do, but doing everything with love, doing everything with the purpose of service, and living life that way. If I'm living life that way, it doesn't matter what I'm going to be doing 20 years from now. One of the guys that works and see my age goes, "Wait, where do you see yourself 5 years from now?" I said, I don't see myself 5 years with nothing. I only see myself today. I come home, I work on my spiritual practice, I do what I can to serve and service, and that's basically it. The more that I can have a say so in my experience of the moment, instead of me thinking to look for experiences to fulfill me. It's me. Um, it's me being in charge, and maybe in charge is not the right word, but me determining that I'm going to find love in in whatever experience. I'm going to find purpose in this experience. I'm going to find a way to serve and extend the love in whatever experience, because I realize that whatever I extend, I'm going to get more of. The more of that I give away, that's what's going to grow in my life. So it doesn't matter where I'm at and what I'm doing. My purpose is just to keep doing this. Um, keep with the mind training. Uh, um, you know, just keep doing it. You know. And just by doing that and that being my purpose, that's good enough. That's good enough, because my purpose isn't what I do at work and how much money I'm making. I mean, I like the work I'm doing. I got a great job and get a great office. No one bothers me. Whatever. I can listen to whatever I want to, and all of that. But um, when I am in that realm, I'm um, always trying to reinforce my purpose to to things do things with love, and to be a light, no matter what. Like I was saying at the beginning of the program, that I have to allow space for everyone to let their egos down. I realize everybody is willing to let it down. Everybody, is willing to drop the ego thought system if they have the opportunities. If they have the opportunities, I gotta be that opportunity for them to let that down. And that's what I can do the rest of my life. Just do that. Just do that. You know, in 5 years, I have no idea where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be doing, so to speak, as far as making money or living or whatever, but I know how I'm going to be doing it. I know how I'm going to be living. So, anyways, let me finish this up. I'm running out of time. A lot of people get out for a few days and that is about all they can handle. These are just examples to illustrate the actual situation into which cosmic history is coming. So when we say the sense organs are perfect already, corollary to this is that sensory information is also perfect. It is only the grasping mind that wants to make something different out of the sense perception that the sense organs bring that creates the problem. To me, expectations. What he's talking about are ego expectations, ego projections, victimhood. I mean, the whole thing. That's what we're talking about. The basic problem is the dissatisfaction of the ego. Very next sentence. Which distorts reality and creates the samarsic tape loop that constitutes the complexity of the technosphere today. Okay, so that sounds like this thing can just be a paragraph right out of the course. The basic problem is the dissatisfaction of the ego, which distorts reality and creates the samarsic. I guess that's a Hebrew term, is what I think, and I'm probably wrong. But I do know what a tape loop is that constitutes the complexity of the technosphere today. Okay, let me hit the second premise in this paragraph here real quick. The second premise is the study of cosmic history cannot be undertaken without some kind of mind training or understanding of some type of sacred point of view. That God exists, that the imprint of God is in the soul, that reality is divine and sacred. You have to really experience this, which is not always an easy thing to do. Everything we are describing points to the actual difficulty of the state of the present day human mind at the closing of the cycle. That is why there is need for mental dynamite to blow the unnecessary thoughts out. Okay, well, I think all of that is pretty self-explanatory. Mental dynamite, for me, mental dynamite is just this banging my head against the wall with this ego thought system. Just the utter frustration, the pain, the suffering of the expectations of the ego. So I'm going to close with that paragraph, and I don't know about anyone else. I had a great time with this. I love doing this, and I am going to bail out right now. It looks like it's time for quote of the day. And good evening, everyone. And I will be on Tuesday next week at 10:30 Eastern Time. Blessings to everybody. Goodbye.